everybody. Welcome in, welcome in. We are back again for part three of financial literacy for content creators. And I have with me the amazing Squire servants. Go ahead and say hi to the people.
Hey, hey, hey.
Now, I have known Squire for how many
A long
years?
time. A long time.
30?
We graduated
Well, why don't say no numbers? Don't say no numbers. Blur
2004.
out the
So
numbers.
so then add another 10 years to that. Yeah, 30 something years probably. 30 something.
I was like, oh, hold on now, hold on now. I don't, I'm not sure when I thought about it. Oh, whatever. I've known you since like seventh grade. We'll go
There
with
we go.
that.
Long time. Long time.
It's been a long time, long time. I can tell y'all some stories, but I ain't gonna tell y'all no stories. Y'all gotta pay for that. But I love having like friends that are like family on here.
So
So
good to be here.
yes, thank you everybody who's in the chat. I appreciate you guys pulling up. Definitely, if you have questions, please ask along the way. Squire, give them some of your background so they know who you are.
Okay. Well, I don't know, where do I start? I've done a lot of things in the course of my career. I'm trained in the sciences, biomedical engineer and neuroscientist by training. Went to law school, business school, practiced as an intellectual property attorney for a number of years. And so patents, primarily in patents, advised on some trademark and copyright work over the course of my career. Held a variety of roles both at law firms and at companies. I've been the general counsel of a public company before, and just excited to be here.
Yes, yes. So he got all the accolades, and he a lawyer. He had went to Duke and all, right? So we both started at Rutgers.
Hey, look, I claim Rutgers, man. Rutgers is first undergrad, so I got to talk about that first.
I mean, do you have that R on your car though, or you're not that serious?
I don't have it on my card. I need to get one though, but I have so much Rutgers swag. It's
None of the Rutgers swag matters if you don't
It
have
don't
the
matter.
R
I
on.
got one on my refrigerator. How
That
about that?
don't matter. You gotta have the R on your car. If you riding around,
Uh,
you have to have the R. I'm sorry,
that's
y'all.
Jersey. You see that R everywhere. So
I know. Of course, my camera wants to track me. Stop tracking me. There it goes. Okay. So, tonight, for this episode of financial literacy for content creators, which you guys know I'm very passionate about, and making sure all of you guys know just a little bit more about how to protect yourself, whether it's taxes, whether it's planning for your future, because as you know, as content creators, if you're doing it full time, what's your retirement? So we have that. All that information is up on YouTube, available for you. But for tonight, we're talking about trademarks, copyrights, and all the above, intellectual property, and whatnot. So, Squire, if you want to start, I don't know if you're gonna follow the PowerPoint, or you just gonna click around and you just jump around.
we'll just chat and we can take questions as they come up, right? So at a high level, I'll probably just talk about intellectual property, the different types generally, all of them. Then we'll dig deep into primarily trademarks and copyrights, what it looks like, the cost to get, how to protect, all that good stuff. Then broadly, just talk through some of my thoughts on ownership and what that looks like, and just things to think through. And then some thoughts on protection, like how do you protect these things and what does that look like? Let's be clear, I'm not giving legal advice. If you have specific questions about IP or a specific scenario that you are in, talk to an attorney. That's not me. All right, talk to an attorney. So all right, cool. So we could dive in first. I don't know. I can't see the slides. I don't know if you. I don't think we need to put them up. But if you want to put them up later, I
Oh
think we
yeah,
can
I'm
do
having
that.
them up because it looks pretty.
Okay, cool. Um, So the first thing I'll say broadly, what is intellectual property, right? Intellectual property is, generally speaking, refers to creations of the mind, things that you think up here, and then you, at some point, translate down into an invention, into some type of tangible medium, like you write it out, you record it. Um, that's broadly the scope of intellectual property. Like I say, inventions, movies, music, brand names, secret formulas, content on websites, all that is encompassed broadly under IP. And when you talk
Yes.
about IP, it usually comes in kind of like four buckets, right? And it's patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets. Those are the four big ones. There's other ones that arguably can fit under them, but those are the big four. And the only reason I'll cover is to just touch on each one of them is so that when you're talking about it to other folks, you're just using the right terminology. Because generally speaking, if content creators are not using patents or trade secrets, but it's good to know what they are. Patents at a high level are really relate to inventions. They got to be new, useful, non-obvious, and it usually is tied to something that you invent. You invent an iPhone, a car, a,
The
a
Scrum
unique
Daddy.
light bulb or something like that. Yeah, so it is something like that, right? A trade secret is typically it usually has to come two things. It has to be something that's secret and that is of commercial value. You have those two things. Typically, you have some type of trade secret, and how you protect yourself is there's some laws around that, and it's really case laws around that. What that needs to happen
Is that
now.
like the Chick-fil-A sauce? Is that a trade secret?
Yeah, that's probably a trade secret, like or Chick-fil-A, KFC. I don't think Chick-fil-A is probably that. I mean,
I
I have
mean,
Chick-fil-A sauce. So you mean the KFC? The KFC, 11 ingredients. That's probably locked up in a vault, right? The 11 herbs and spices that they
isn't
put
it like
on
only like
KFC.
four people know the actual recipe
Yeah, well, yeah.
at a
There's only
given
a handful
time?
of people. It literally, I think it's locked in a vault somewhere, and that you can't, nobody can really get in or get out because it's that valuable to the company. They never really disclosed it. So that is trade secret. So that is something that's a secret, and you have to protect it, and you have to have certain things in place to make sure it looks like looks like it's being hid or kept in secret, and it also has some commercial value. Because if that comes out, you know, it can
That's
take the
like
value.
the special algorithm for TikTok. And I know like that's the whole thing about
That
them.
might be, I don't, that sounds like that. Probably the Google algorithm as well. All those things are probably protected. They're not disclosing that to folks, right?
No.
Like, for example, if the Google algorithm comes out, like that's a problem, right? People go to Google because um, you find better, arguably better search results than other platforms. So yeah, that's right. All right. So those are two things. Patents, inventions, trade secrets are literally secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Now, trademarks is a little bit different. So, at a high level, it's really something that identifies the source of a product or service. And and we'll get into more detail, but it really could be anything. It could be a smell. Usually it's a logo or trade name. It could be a color, but anything that associates um, your product or service with the source, right? Anything that can do that, that is broadly considered a trademark or can be trademarked. Um, and copyrights are really expressions of ideas, right? We'll get into what that means in a second, but those are the big four. And like for content creators, typically it's going to be around trademarks and copyrights. Copyrights more likely than anything because you're generating content continuously. And trademarks, and if you have like a brand on what you do, or you have some type of product or service that you're promoting, and you want to put that brand or logo or trade name associated with you or your content, that's going to be um, of importance there, right? So, uh, questions? We good?
Yeah.
Because I can't see the questions.
No,
I don't think.
I'll
All right,
definitely. Nobody's asked
cool.
questions yet. They're definitely just
All right.
chiming in. Thank you for how helpful this information is. So, guys in the chat, you can always ask questions. Please feel free.
Cool, 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 cool. So, look, so trademarks. What are trademarks? It's really any word, name, symbol, design, sound, color, touch, smell, any of those things that again that identify and distinguish a product or service.
Mm-hmm.
How I like to think about it is like trademarks are adjectives, not nouns, in the sense that like if I say sunglasses, that's a it's a noun, it's a thing, right? As opposed to Ray-Ban sunglasses, or right, Ray-Ban is something that's now associating the company, the brand, the equity, the it conveys a level of marksmanship or brand equity that we know this is going to be a solid product with that sunglasses. So you say a strong name that's going to associate with sunglasses, that's going to be your trademark broadly.
Mm-hmm.
And you typically this comes in a lot of times two flavors: trade name, like hey, I want to associate my company or business. So like Apple, IBM, Intel, those are trade. Google, well, I don't know, it's Alphabet now, right? So I don't know. So it's different, but those typically are trade names. Trademarks really identify goods um, that that you're really trying to promote. I think iPhone's one. So iPhone is in a it's a and I think iPhone actually had to buy this. Someone else had iPhone, or they had to license this from somebody before it was created. And it was iPhone, iPad. There was one of the I's
One of the
that
eyes.
I Apple didn't own initially when it came out with this, and they had to come up. They had to kind of go get this from someone else. But that identifies the good, right? You hear iPhone, that associates you with Apple, that associates you with you. I mean, that associates like, hey, this is a quality product, right? And so broadly, that's what it is. Now, selecting a trademark is the real tricky part. Like when I talk to folks and I'm giving like business advice, usually they have a name, they have a thing. I'm like, well, look, practically speaking, I always say before you get to the trademark, trade name, company, what have you, see if you can get the domain name, right? Like if a lot of times, and this is a sidebar, a lot of times if you can't get the domain name, doesn't make sense to have that trademark
You
or
know
trade
what?
name. Yep.
So, just building on that, when I created Fangirl Review, it was going to be Fangirls or Fangirl Reviews with an S, but I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't get the S. So I was
Yeah, look,
like, it's going to be Fangirl
mhm.
Review. Like,
Look,
I couldn't get
that
that S, so I knew to leave that one
that
alone. I had to go with the domain name I could get, the
yep.
.com I could get.
And you want to figure that out before you put a lot of time, money in building up that brand. Because if you build it up and then you say, then I want to go buy that domain name, it's going to be more expensive, right? And so you have to think through. This is just practically speaking. If you want to get that trade name, trademark, what have you, make sure you can get that domain name first. And I always tell people, just again, advice: if you're coming up with a name, come up with like five or six, right? You got to make sure there are companies out. Check the different websites that you can search. A Delaware, you could the Delaware Corporation website where you can search, figure out what names of companies are out there. There are a lot of companies that don't have websites that might have your name. It may not be trademarked, and so you have to check the different areas to make sure that it's a good
Yes,
mark.
please do
And
your
so
research, people. Please do your
do
research.
research. Now, look, there are attorneys that'll do this. Typically, what an attorney will do is they'll say, "All right, give me your top five names." They'll run a comprehensive search across all their different databases to determine whether it's good, whether someone has it or whether some doesn't. The thing about trademarks is that you don't necessarily have to
Hmm.
register them. So like you can find them. There's the patent and trademark office. You can search them and you can find ones that are registered, but you won't necessarily find the ones that aren't. But it's dangerous if you don't register it because it's regional. So for example, if I have a food truck and I have a name brand food truck and I only use it in New Jersey,
Hmm.
that trademark is only going to be good in New Jersey if I don't register it nationally. If someone else comes up with the same idea in California, they can use it in California, right? Now, the issue will be if some either one of them wants to actually file the trademark, with the patent and trademark office, who actually gets it. Then you have to argue over. You may get the California folks may file first and get California and the rest of the states, but you in New Jersey will be able to keep it in New Jersey, right? And so it makes sense to register, but you don't have to do it, just because just the way the law allows it. So that's just another new thing to consider when setting up the trademarks. Now, look, selecting a trademark, there's usually a sliding scale on what's allowable and what's not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's something that's non-distinctive. That's the one end. Do all the end. That's something like you get no protection on the non-distinctive stuff. Then the most distinctive was really the full protection. So you get like generics. Like if I just say, "Hey, I have a bar of soap and I want to call it soap," or I have a phone and I want to call it phone. That's so generic, right? The likelihood of you getting that is very low. But
Wait,
if you
so
come
is
up with,
that like LeBron when he wanted Taco Tuesday? You remember that?
well,
He
yeah. So
tried to
like
fight for that,
it
but
is like it's not that generic, but like so it's closer to that end versus the more fanciful made up stuff, Exxon, Google, like
yeah.
that stuff. But yes, Taco Tuesdays. He didn't come up with it, right? It's descriptive. He eats tacos on Tuesdays, but like descriptive. Now you're close to this end
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to something that's made up, right? So you generally have like generic. Then you get the next one over is descriptive, like, hey, I have potatoes, creamy potatoes, right? Like that is something that's going to be descriptive. Then you have suggestive, which is really in the middle. Um, Arbitrary. So like Apple, right? Apple's a word,
Yes.
but it's associated with the tech company. So you can, when you're trying to do it's arbitrary. So the name, the apple, the fruit, is unassociated with the tech company. So you could actually get something like that through, so long as it's tied to specifically to the tech company. Um, and and then again, the fanciful one is at the end. So you have that broad spectrum. Any attorney will be able to walk you through it, what's good, what's not, because they're going to give you advice on, the likelihood of it actually getting through. They'll give you advice on what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Someone they found someone using it in California or wherever else around the world, not necessarily around the world, because each one of these things are by country. So you could have to, if you want to do globally, actually technically you're supposed to get one in each of the countries that you're going into, where you can't really protect it. So that's this kind of the scope on the trademark. So I was saying, like, once you register it, this is where you typically see the R, right? So you file it with the Patent and Trademark Office,
Mm-hmm.
the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and then you can federally register it. This typically costs, depends on who you have. Some will do it a fixed fee, but it's a couple thousand, so it's not necessarily a cheap thing. So it could be 2 to 5 thousand to do the search, file the application, um, and just do the back and forth with the patent office, if you want to get the federally registered route. Now that's when you get the R, and then the other thing is you can get common law rights where you just say, hey, look, this I'm not registering it, but you can put TM next to it and you can start using it. But then, like I said, you are limiting it to where you're actually um, using that logo. And so, like, if you're a content creator, you have to kind of show, yeah, I'm using this. Now, it's interesting because I'm usually working with products, not necessarily content creators that are.
Yes.
Um, and so, like, if they're using this trade name in all the states, and they can show that,
I mean, it's not even
you
all the
know,
states; it's across the countries.
across the country, right? So you can argue, say, hey, no, look, I've been using this, even though I haven't registered it. I'm getting views. I'm selling products. My content's being seen. You could argue that, look, it's in other countries. I mean, other states, across the country.
Well,
But
and in other
to be
countries,
safe,
not even just
yeah,
in
yeah.
outside
I
the
mean,
U.S.
I would,
or.
yeah. I would say to be safe, you always get it federally registered and spend a couple $1,000s just to make sure you're good.
Yeah.
Um, and and look, the reality is, if you don't have it registered and someone's using it, if you want to sue, you got to register it, right? So it's like you're ultimately going to have to do it if you want to enforce it, and that goes to. I was going to do this separately, but I'll talk about it here, where it's like I think IP is interesting in the sense that the power of intellectual property to some extent is tied to your ability to enforce it, right? If you can get a trademark, an amazing trademark, but if you have no money, if someone uses it and you have no money to sue them, they'll just use it, right? They'll
Yeah.
just, what are you going to do? You can't enforce it. Um, and so you got to have, think through how important is it. Now, you actually want to go do this in the first place. You might not have all the money to sue the big people to go after. Now, there are a lot of folks that'll take this case on, but you have to think about that, up front because look, it is, and this usually comes up when I advise people on patents, for example. I'm like, yeah, you can go a patent, but it's going to take a couple of years for you to get. And if someone uses it, are you actually going to um, enforce it? And a lot of times they're not. So like you gotta have like, well, don't spend the $50,000 to get the patent, right? Like, you have to, yeah, patents are more expensive um, than trademarks. So just something to think about from just the enforcement perspective there, um, from a trademark. So that's trademarks.
Yes.
All good there. Cool. Um, so copyrights. Copyrights are um, protects original works of authorship. So literary, musical, artistic, things like that. They're usually independently created, and generally speaking, minimal creativity is required. But it exists the moment you fix it to a tangible medium. So, like you record it, you write it, you paint it. Once it's fixed in a tangible medium, it's technically copyrighted. You don't need to register it. But similarly, like trademarks, if you don't register it, you can't really enforce it. So oftentimes content creators probably create so much content, you're not copyrighting everything,
Yeah.
right? Um, but if there's meaningful ones that you care about, you don't want any, you want some protection around. Like, a lot of times I've seen people create programs or processes or booklets, and I'm like, okay, I see why you want to protect that because you don't want someone to take that and just walk off and
So,
your take the 10-step plan.
building off of that, we have a question in the chat from Gruff who asks if I get a logo designed by a digital artist, which a lot of us do,
Yep.
is it technically the artist? Would I need to get it trademarked?
Good question. So you get a logo designed. Technically speaking, it's going to come down to the contract. So I'll answer it in a second. But technically speaking, the people that actually create it own it.
Yes.
So now, if you're hiring somebody to do it, typically there's this thing called work for hire. Your contract should say that I'm hiring you to do the work. Whatever you do is a work for hire and it's mine. And should specifically say, I hereby assign, transfer, and convey to you as the person I'm hiring, that person that I've hired them to do the work. So like conveying to me ownership. So in your contract, it should make sure that the big thing is that it's assigned ownership to you, but you should lock that in your contract up front.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, definitely. That's a good question. Now, if it's a logo, again, it's copyrightable, right? You might not copyright it, but once you get it, you make sure you have ownership on it. You fix it to your product. You fix it to your. It's the bottom corner of the many of the videos that you're performing or you're making. Then it's a trademark, right? And so that's a good example of like some of the distinctions. The copyright is someone that they fix it to a medium, it's the artwork. But then when you actually affix it to your service or your content, then it can effectively become a trademark. Hopefully that answered the question.
I think so. Did Gruff, did
All
that
right.
answer your question? Nola Queen, do you have any questions? Game idea guy, I see you in here. Fuzzy, what's up? Music, I see you. Appreciate you for pulling up as always. That's actually a good question because a lot of content creators have their logos, avatars, etc., made by a digital artist, unless they're able to make their own. But a lot of times they are hiring people, and so it's really important to get your contracts right, get your copyrights right, get everything. So once they're done and they give it over to you, they have to assign ownership to you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they still
Makes.
own it and they could now take it and use it again for the next person. So
Yep. Yep. Now, look, a lot of
they
this
shouldn't,
should be par for
but
the course. It should.
yeah,
They shouldn't. A lot of this should be par for the course. Whatever contract that if they're constantly making logos, they should know this, and they should have. It would be bad business for them to try to continuously do something like that. Where it's like, why would I work with someone that's really always trying to steal my content? The things that I'm hiring them to make, right? But you need to make sure that whatever is in your contract, it has this I hereby assign. Not it can't be I will assign, I may assign. It has to be I hereby do assign present tense anything that I create going forward relating to this project.
yes,
So good question. Um, so I forgot where I was at. Tangible medium, copyrights. Um, typically it's like, what can you do? You can reproduce it, you can derivative works, perform it publicly, display. This gives you all the things you can do with this content. Now it protects the expression of it, not necessarily the underlying idea. So like if you just have an idea in your head, people are like, I got this great idea and want to copyright it. No, no, no. You can once you translate it to a medium, that's when it's copyrightable. It's not necessarily you can't protect necessarily the ideas in your head. You got to kind of put it down. Now, the interesting thing about copyrights, it's the term is generally the life of the author plus 7 years. Now, if you do work made for hire, I think it's a little bit more. So maybe it's 95 years from publication.
wow,
So these aren't permanent, right? I think trademarks generally, as long trademarks are different. Trademark, so long as you register it, you continue to file the upkeep, it's it's indefinite,
yeah,
right? Until and so long as it doesn't become like generic. So, like for example, thermos, right? Thermos was, I think it was trademark. It was a fanciful name, but it got so used, it became generic,
yeah.
and you can lose your trademark, for example, if it just becomes way too generic. Um, I don't know, the Band Aid,
Yes, Band Aid. Because once you said that, I was
Band
like, is Band Aid versus adhesive
Yeah, I feel
banding?
like Band-Aid, I don't know this specifically, but like there are things, and so people care. Like you can you could easily see like Uber. Now Uber is a fanciful, made up, related to this particular product, but everyone is like using. I'm just going to go Uber somewhere, even if it's Lyft, right? They're like, I'm going Uber, but now I'm really using Lyft. But if Uber is not careful, for example, in making sure it's clear that no, that's just a brand name or a trademark trade name and that's not a generic, then but it has to be careful about that because you don't want everyone to start using it and then you as the company not enforcing no, 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 you can't use that. It's specific to the company, but you can lose generic copyrights. Not so much. It's life of the offer plus typically plus 7 years or 75. I don't remember. Now, interestingly, like the one data point is this: like Mickey Mouse, the Mickey Mouse copyright recently came up. And this is like the
I could
big
have
one. I
bought
think it
Mickey
was up.
Mouse. I could have bought
Yeah,
him.
it was a steamboat, steamboat
Oh,
Mickey,
he
whatever.
is now free. You can use
He's
him.
free. And so, like almost immediately, there was like a movie out, like it was a horror film
Yes.
with Mickey Mouse or Steamboat, and so that's like indicative. Now, look, that years after
Steamboat Willie.
it was
Yes.
great. Yeah, Steamboat Willie. There we go. Um, It's created, but my point is these aren't definite allowed. Typically, it's for your lifetime. So if you create it,
Yeah.
and so you do have a long time. But if something lasts, like Mickey Mouse and Steamboat Willie lasts for a long time, you know, 70, 90 plus years down the line, it will be open to the public and people will be able to use it. But for purposes of you, most people here, you can protect it for your lifetime, so you probably
So we
do.
got two questions, real quick. Um,
Yep.
Nola Queen asks, "Can we create the contract, or will we need to have a lawyer create one for us?" In terms of how
You
you
can create. There are a variety of websites that, and I don't know any of. I could probably find some, but there are a
Google,
variety of websites that
Google will
can
tell
build
you.
do template. Yeah, Google will tell you to do template these template agreements. I would just like you to start starting point. You can look on Google and figure out what's there. I wouldn't necessarily put it like I don't know the AI Chat GBT. I don't know how good they are for using it, so I would not necessarily rely on them. I
I
always,
use
as I
Chat
said up
GPT a
front, like
lot.
if you want to go that route, talk to an attorney, but you can get probably um,
It's
some
really
good
simple.
template agreements just through
Yeah.
Google examples online.
And then once you
Um,
have your template, you can then change it for every
yeah, you
time you
can.
hire somebody else. You just keep
Right.
changing it. Um,
Yep.
and
Exactly.
then our second question, what from the game idea guy Andre, would that mean that when I make videos about different concepts, I think up and post them, they are copyrighted to me?
Yeah. If you record something, a video, it is your copyright. You created it. It's intangible. It's an intangible meaning. It's an original work from you, and it was independently created. So you fit all the criteria for copyright. So yes.
So I'm gonna ask
Now be
you,
careful. I would say this, right? If
wait,
you create it to get, go ahead.
I'm gonna ask you this question because I think this applies to a lot of us in the
Hmm.
content creation world who do reactions and then people react to our videos and things like that. Fair use. Can you explain the concept of fair use? Because I know some people don't even know what that is. And
Right. So
copyright
right,
management with
and
that.
so you can create a copyright, but the reality is there are some people can use it so long as it falls within this fair use doctrine. And I don't necessarily know off the top of my head the specific particulars, but there are ways you can use it. So like for Weird Al Yankovic, he was like spoofing a lot of artists' music,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's allowable, right? I think he's had a number of fights over that, but he's allowed. That's always been allowable. So there is a view on what can and can't be used. Now, this is some practical advice. Now, remember I said like you create content and it's only as strong as you have the cash to enforce it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there's something that's um, of concern to you, if someone's like using your video, you can always again you probably find a template cease and desist letter that you could probably send out to folks. Now, look, that person may be like, you know what, it ain't worth it. I don't got the money to fight it. I'm going to take it down. It's not that worth. And so you could always go that route from an enforcement standpoint. I've been in situations where people have sent me, or not to me, like a client,
Uh-huh.
cease and desist letter, and I look at it and either I don't respond. I'm like, I'm not taking it down, or I'm not doing anything with this. Thank you for sending this to me. Or I tell them go pound sand. Like I'm not like either we know the law, we're allowed to do this, we're not changing. If
Yes.
you have a problem, see us in court, right? Most people don't want to go like if it's not that important, people aren't going to raise the level. So like a cease and desist letter can be strong enough um, disincentive for people like, I'm not trying to fight it and take it down. So you gotta just like practically, sometimes it makes sense to just go that route.
Okay. Keep that in mind as you
Yeah,
guys are doing your reaction videos to other people's content and things of that sort. So just make sure you're kind of, in terms of fair use, you should always have yourself be bigger than their content. When you are, if you're making the video, you should be bigger. You should pan away from the content and go to you as just the main feature, and then go back to their content. That's some of the ways that you can do your reaction video. So just keep that in mind. Don't be a little square and you're just sitting there watching it, and then everybody else is watching it. You could easily end up in some problems, and especially on YouTube, in which they will
yeah,
get a
and I
copyright
feel like
strike.
I mean, like, look, I would just say somewhat use common sense, right? Like, if if you're doing a reaction video,
Mm-hmm.
the content should be your reaction, right?
Yes.
You should not, the value of the video should not be what you're reacting to. The value of the video is you. And so if you feel like the true value of the video is what you're watching, then you should be concerned. You may be there may you, if you're doing it, it may not fall into the fair use, and so someone may come after you. And so you gotta, and then referring back and forth is you react, like you're right, the smaller content. So like you'll see videos like on YouTube where um, they'll pause, they'll talk
Mm-hmm.
about it more. So it's not like a straight shot of 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 the video because now you're breaking it up, right? It's not it's you're taking portions of it, talking about it. Um, and so then you're starting to get more into that. Okay, this falls into more of the fair use doctrine. So I would say use common sense. Like if you look at your work at the end and you're like, you know what, this is more for the content that I'm watching versus
Mm-hmm.
this goes for fair use across the board. Content that I'm watching as opposed to me, then you may want to revise what you're doing a little bit to kind of account for that.
Yes. Thank you, Kwanzaa, for the raid. I appreciate you for being here. And I think we had, yes, fair use is across all your social platforms. So just be careful. So if you're doing your reactions or whatever on TikTok versus YouTube versus Instagram versus pick any, just be careful. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and like, look, this is you're content creators, right? And so you understand, right? If someone did the same thing to you, like how would you feel, right? And how would you respond?
I did have
And I
somebody
think
do that. They grabbed one of my videos that was doing pretty well on YouTube, and they put it in their video. And I didn't even know. They didn't even message me. They didn't even tell me. Somebody
right.
else watched the video and it was like, hey, that's Fangirl. And they text me. They were like, I just saw you in this video. And they sent it to me. I was like, yeah, I didn't sign off on that. Like, that's wild.
Yeah.
But
Excuse me. Yeah. Like, just be respectful. What, it's a tight, it's a community, right? And so do unto others as you expect to be done unto you. So just be mindful of, and I think for the most part, a lot of times that that it's almost like self-regulation, right? In this cohort, that kind of people typically do that. So that's that, right? Another thing I'll mention, a lot of times, like if you're doing content together, like a conversation like this, who owns the copyright? Technically, if you're co-generating, you co-wrote a song or you do content together, it's co-owned, right? And
mm-hmm.
so I can do it what I want without asking you. You can do what you want with it without asking me. And you gotta be mindful of like, okay, who's who owns it. And so there's probably a lot more nuance to that, but I only bring it up as like you gotta be if you're co-creating stuff,
A lot
then
of us do. A lot of us do
yeah,
co-streams
be
together.
yep. Be like who understand going up front. And I say like just have some type of understanding written down. Um, okay, this is how we're going to use it. This is how we're going to market it, and this is who owns it. A lot of time, look, I was attorney. I usually work with bigger clients, and I'm like, my whole position was, I own everything. Period. Full stop. I will license you the right to do X, Y, and Z. So the ownership was clear.
Yeah.
Um, but I will give you the limited rights to do X, Y, and Z. So you didn't have an issue on ownership, but both parties had the right to use it. So there's
That
something
makes
to think
sense.
about, kind of going forward. Now, I think, look, that's it on my take on copyrights, trademarks, patents, things. I think broadly speaking, I had some notes here. Like, look, digital assets are probably your biggest value, in this space.
Yes.
And so there's a couple of simple things like you got to protect it, right? And I think protection comes in a variety of ways. The simple stuff, strong passwords, two-factor authentication, like stuff like that. Make sure your content is protected so no one can go in and take it. I think backing it up, making sure everything's backed up to the cloud to the extent you can, and that's going to again just hopefully protect you in the long run. I think you always have the legal things. I mentioned a couple of them before. Monitoring what's out there so that you know what people are doing. If you see someone's using your trademark, trade name, you need to know about it. So you do need to monitor. I would also say, to the extent you can, you have the capital, register the IP. Not, I know, be smart about it. Copyrights are relatively inexpensive, and you don't have to register until you actually um, you actually need to sue. But if there's something specific that you think is meaningful that you want to put a stake in the ground, like, hey, I own it, copyright it, right? So register your IP as opposed to just rely on common law to do it. And then, like I said, those cease and desist letters are, can be helpful,
Yeah.
right? If you feel someone is using it, so you monitor, you've registered, you monitor it. If you see someone using it, you feel like I'm like, send out that letter. This is business. This is your livelihood. You make money off of this. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with and making sure people know that it's yours and it's protected in a meaningful way. Um, and so I would kind of think through those. And then there was another fourth thing that I was going to mention. Yeah, another thing to think about, the last thing. And I didn't, I'm not too familiar with it, so it's somewhat new because creators are somewhat in the last 10 years, right? Um, it's, you can get insurance, right? You can have insurance for a couple things. Creators insurance that'll either one, protect you from if you're doing a video and you feel like and someone is saying, hey, you're infringing my stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like you can have that. It could protect you if you're promoting a brand or promoting something that's not yours, right? As an influencer, you're say, hey, look, I'm using this widget, whatever it is. You could have insurance to protect you if that widget all of a sudden is hurting people. People are going to be looking at you because you were the salesperson
That's
that they see.
wild. Yo,
Yeah, right.
everybody. So many of us are offered sponsorships, brand deals, and things of that sort. And if something, and you're like, oh, use my code for blah blah 30% off of whatever you're selling them, and something goes wrong,
Yep.
yo, that is everybody. Like,
And
clip that, save that. That right there, like, there you go.
and the
That
thing
is
is, like,
wild to think
the
about.
way it works is um, they'll go after everybody. A lot of
Yes.
well, no, they typically go after the person they think has the most money. Usually that's the company.
Yeah.
But if you're an influencer, you got a ton of money. Be rest assured, you will be a part of that lawsuit.
They're gonna take
I
whatever
mean,
little bit
look,
of
that's
money
what
they can
happened
get out
to
of you.
like I mean it's tangential, but like the whole Bitcoin thing, Tom
Yes.
Brady and like they
Logan
all got sued,
Paul,
right?
like
Now I
all of
think,
them.
but some of that was like there were some securities regulations
They
that they were kind of
were doing some shady
running
stuff.
running foul of too. Well, I don't think they were doing shady, but it was like it wasn't simply like, hey, we got screwed out of money. When you go into sell financial products, it's just a different realm. But
Yeah.
my point is, like, people can get caught out there as the brand ambassador for things, particularly if
Wow.
promoting it, depending on what you're saying, how you're saying it. So, creators insurance, check it out, Google it. I know there are companies out there that have it, just to make sure, like, if this is a business, for you. You're protecting yourself. And I don't know the prices and the quotes and all these things, but I
Yeah.
do know that's out there. So I would throw that out there. And that's it. That's all I got. Right. So like I think it is I mean, it was an interesting topic, right? So you know, because I've done these things, but not in the context as a content creator. So I hope this was helpful to folks.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of, no, you dropped a lot of great gems. Oftentimes in the business world and everything like that, people don't think about content creators, which is why I'm doing a lot of this financial literacy for us, because when you talk about taxes, people don't think about content creators. When you talk about retirement insurance, they don't think about content creators. Trademarks,
Yep.
patents, copyrights, all that.
It it is a business.
Yes.
Treat it like a business. A lot of times, like, hey, you know, I'm saying stuff online and it starts off like for fun, but once it turns into a business, you got to treat it like a business. And you know, it takes time. So it's time, money, to put some of these videos and the content together. And at the end of the day, the revenue is supposed to, and the value that's being created is supposed to um, outpace the expenses of doing these things. And you got to make sure you're protecting yourself. That's when insurance comes in. You have to have strong contracts to make sure you own what you think you own. And so, yeah, like I like if take anything, treat it like a business, like any other business that's out there. And I think that'll give you some good guidance. Just that alone gives you some good guidance on how to approach
Yes.
these things.
Everybody in this chat, you guys are all a business. You are a business. Treat it as such, especially if you're doing this full time as a content creator, even more so. If this is your bread and butter, protect. You are your brand. Thank you, Nola Queen. Exactly. You are your brand. Okay? So protect it. Get your insurance, which now I need to go find insurance for content creator. Somebody to talk on that. I'm gonna keep bringing up this stuff. And if you guys ever have suggestions of what you would like to see on this financial literacy, I guess almost like a podcast at this point, please let me know, because I will find a person for us to talk to us about it. I'm still trying to grab somebody in terms of um, business credit and things of that sort, but there's not a lot of people who talk about business credit for content creators, and we don't all need 5,000 rolls of toilet paper. So, you know, so I'm looking for that. So stay tuned. We're gonna find somebody who can talk to us about that and all that and things of that sort. But does anybody have any last questions for Squire before we let him go? We don't want to take up too much of his time. I'll give y'all a second, but Squire, thank you so much. I
Ooh, cool.
appreciate you.
Anytime, anytime, anytime.
I know.
Uh,
So when I hire you, you got to do all the work for free though, to copyright my stuff and
Well,
trademark my
look,
stuff,
look.
because we're
It's
family.
this is wait. This is it's business. This is business. My
No, we're family. No, when
no.
it
Now we
comes
family. No, no, no.
to
This is business. This is business.
no, I've known you
No,
30
no.
years. This is family. We're this is Fast and Furious. It's all about family.
Right.
Well, then I want to severely discount it, and I'll pay you from the Fangirl Review business account.
You got it. Got it. I'm sorry. I got a lot of stuff going on over
I
here. So hopefully you don't hear
no,
all
you're
the
good.
chaos in the background. But no, this was cool. Thank you for having me. Hopefully it was helpful to folks. And yeah, if any more questions, anything I can help,
Yeah,
always feel
anybody
free to.
have any more questions? Nola Queen said to get that contract ready. Hey, we don't need contracts, but we're family. What do you? There's no need for all of that. Stop. But just to
Right.
recap, everybody, make sure look into that insurance for content creators, which was a huge thing. I'd never even thought of that myself. Look into making sure you have your contracts with your digital artists, and so many of us hire people for our overlays, our emotes, our avatars, our logos, all of that information. They should already be doing that. Anytime I've hired anybody to make stuff for me, I've had the copyright contract and everything, and I get the copyrights and everything, so it's mine. So like the little video that you guys see when I first start up my stream, which is like a lo-fi fangirl. I have the copyright for that. Like, you have to, you know, own your information, and protect it. Because if you own it, you can protect it easier, and, you know, get a little copy of that cease and desist letter. Even though they always talk about that online, like, oh, so and so got a letter to tell them to stop using that or stop talking about that, blah 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 blah. But sometimes that's all you need to do. People are like, nah, I don't want to get sued, and I'm petty enough that I'm going to put the money behind it and sue somebody. Oh no, trust and believe. I'll put the money behind it. If that means I have to skip out on one extra trip this year to go after somebody, I will do it. So, you know, as long as it's worth it, because they gotta have some money that I'm going after. I can't go after nothing. So I probably won't go after anybody here, because then y'all ain't got nothing. But like I'm saying, if somebody bigger was to use my stuff, I'm going after them. I want their money. I ain't got nothing, so don't go after me either. But yes, everybody, thank you so much. This is a short stream today. We get in, we talk about the information, and we get out. It doesn't look like anybody has any questions or not. Okay. So, Squire, again, thank you so much. I'm not going to hold you much longer.
Anytime. Good seeing you again.
Yes, we will catch up. Everybody, go forth, enjoy your night. I'm going to hit this ending screen because Debbie always yells at me. Debbie's my mod of the mostest, and she yells at me for not using the ending screen with all the music that people made for me. I don't know who owns that copyright, but you know, they let me use it. So, what has my voice in it? That's right. They use my voice in the song that they made for me. Do I own it or do they own it? Who owns it?
Good question.
It's a share. Well, for now, they're letting me use it. And if they tell me to stop, then I'll stop. So, there you go. All right, y'all. Until we meet again. Bye. Hi, guys. It's Vicky from Fangirl Review. Woo, woo.